Origin Gens, welcome to UX, and this is Ukraine's F-16s are now flying multiple combat missions per day, but on sandboxx. Is F-16 multi-role fighter like F-35 is, or is it just like air dominance one? Because it's surprising if they can just like turn into a multi-role, like where they're doing many things, right? They're basically attacking ground targets using defensive things, right? Attacking as well. I'll be surprised if they give us more info or detailed info how things is working because war is ongoing. But yeah, F-16s obviously is going to be like awesome. Isn't that says a lot that multi-decade old plane is like working great in your war? Like this is like 21st century war and F-16s are fine. That's how this war is going. That's insane. All right, let's move on. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more. I like watching sandboxx because like usually news is like if something happens then news is early enough, right? And his tech element is also awesome, like how planes are working, how F-16, F-22, how things are working that way. So yeah, it's always interesting to see like what is the difference there, because we hear about all this, what is it called, simulations they do, right? Where fifth generation planes that hands are tied behind their back, the stealth is not an element. Somehow fourth generation overpowers them because stealth plane obviously has a lot of compromise areas because of they have to be stealthy. So fourth generation can be head to head powerful. That basically tells me that fourth generation planes are not a joke, right? F-16, F-18s, these are insane planes. So of course they work great in war like this. And F-16 is really light and nimble. So let's do this one.
You may not be hearing much about F-16s operating in Ukraine, but that may well be by design, as new details about F-16 operations in the embattled nation are beginning to trickle their way out to the public. Last week, General Christopher Cavalli, the commander of the U.S. European Command, reported to the Senate Armed Services Committee that Ukrainian F-16s are now flying both offensive and defensive combat operations over Ukraine every day. In the defensive role, the general reported that these fighters have downed a significant number of Russian cruise missiles, which are powered by air-breathing jet engines and usually fly at subsonic speeds, a lot like a tactical aircraft. But F-16s have also been flying offensive operations in East.
Yeah, sometimes I think how many people know that there are missiles like that, cruise missiles basically. That's like a plane going subsonic speed, but it's a missile. They show in movies where a missile is just cruising and like some superhero chase after it. You're like, oh, that thing must be really fast. No, it's subsonic. It's a cruise missile, right? I don't know how many people know that. People always is something that are like rocket booster, insanely high speed. Those are the missiles, right?
Eastern Ukraine specifically, bombing Russian positions near the front lines. Now, the general did not disclose how many F-16s are already operating in Ukraine, but he did say that there are more still coming in from European partners, and publicly available reports show that at least 85 F-16s have been promised to Ukraine thus far. Now, the F-16 is among the most capable and widely operated fourth-generation fighters on the planet, making it a logical choice for equipping Ukraine's sort of piecemeal military, because aircraft and support materials can come in from any of the 24 or so countries that fly F-16s today. But F-16s also require fairly long, well-manicured airstrips, and they're most vulnerable to attack in between flights while they're waiting on the tarmac. So Ukraine has to be very secretive about how many F-16s they're flying and where they're operating to limit Russia's ability to strike these jets.
Yeah, but what happened to Russia's satellites? Don't they have a lot of satellites competing with USA? They launched a lot of satellites. Don't they have satellites that can just like look down? How is Ukraine going to like hide them? That's interesting. You think after like Trump and Ukraine fallout, people are like, oh, wait a minute, what about F-16s now? How are they going to get it? But yeah, a lot of countries have F-16s now, right? It's like F-35. It was sold to a lot of countries, right? So this is a good gateway into like this type of Western equipment. If they get used to F-16s, like in the future, some other country can give their similar plane. Like I'm guessing, like Gripen and all these other planes, right, from Europe, kinda is similar to this, because all NATO and NATO country equipment somehow have to be similar so they can operate it. I'm pretty sure there's a case like that. But yeah, there's like F-16. Maybe somebody in the future, if war intensifies, some country would give F-15 or something. Who the fuck knows?
Jets with long-range cruise or ballistic missiles in between flights. Now, about a month ago, one Ukrainian F-16 pilot broke cover to answer some of the public's questions in an official Ukrainian Air Force release. And that pilot spoke really highly of the F-16, at least as compared to the Soviet-era Su-27s and MiG-29s that Ukraine has been operating since the beginning of the Russian invasion. Now, according to that pilot, the integration of weapons and targeting delivered by the F-16 makes for a very efficient combination, with him estimating that around 80% of all missiles that they launch ultimately scoring direct hits on their targets, even amid the chaos of the battlefield. Now, he didn't reference specific weapons, but we know Ukrainian F-16s have been operating AGM-88 HARMs, high-speed anti-radiation missiles, as well as glide bombs like the GBU-39 small-diameter bomb, which is an incredibly capable weapon. These weapons, of course, provided by the United States. He also highlighted how effective the F-16 has been.
Are they still provided by United States? There are a lot of questions on the air right now after Trump and Ukraine fallout, right? But one thing's for damn sure, like Ukraine is benefiting from like richest country on the planet and their like capitalism mentality. Because anywhere else like Soviet Union, Russia, China, they're like, okay, how much money should we spend? 300 billion. How about like 50 billion, right? Like that will work. While in America, 300 billion, sure, why not? Like we have 40 trillion economy, why the fuck not? So insane amount of R&D, insane amount of like money spent into something that anybody else wouldn't do, right? All the trial and error, all the new technology. So all the insane missiles and like glide bombs and shit. And they're like, okay, you know what? We have this 2-decade-old bombs that you can have. 2-decade-old bombs still overpowered today. That's how US is operating. And Ukraine like, oh yeah, we'll take it like F-16 with these bombs, like we are untouchable.
At hunting airborne targets, like the aforementioned cruise missiles, as well as one-way attack drones, like the Iranian-sourced Shahed-136 that Russian forces call the Garan-2. Now, according to that unnamed pilot, F-16s are flying multiple sorties per day, which is an exceptional pace considering the monumental effort underway to ensure these fighters have enough maintainers and equipment to keep these jets running. Now, he said these fighters are primarily tasked with protecting vital infrastructure, but do conduct bombing missions at what he called a tactical depth into Russian-controlled territory, which means not all that far into Russian-controlled airspace. Now, despite the capabilities of these F-16s, as well as other Western fighters like the Mirage 2000 that Ukraine recently began receiving, that unnamed pilot still emphasized the dire need for more air defense assets to hold Russian attacks at bay, highlighting just how difficult the fighting for their sovereignty continues to be, even as the US attempts to push for a temporary ceasefire.
Yeah, I don't think temporary ceasefire is going to happen anytime soon, right? Because I think Trump was banking on Putin to be like more at ease with the Trump being there because they always got along or something. But after the Greenland thing, I'm pretty sure Putin said like, "Oh, this is like like a war statement or something, trying to take Greenland because Arctic, obviously. If you see at a globe, if Greenland is under US's power, that's like a major blow into anything in Arctic. And Russia always project power in Arctic, so that's a problem. So I can see that. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, F-16s, like F-16 having like multiple missions every day. Yeah, you need like a better defensive measures, hold the skies because that's the important part. Whoever holds the skies somehow had like, like higher element, like they can dictate things, right? In the modern world, obviously that's how it is. If Ukrainians saw Russian invasion coming, they would have done something to bolster their like, like air dominance somehow. And maybe invasion wouldn't have gone the way it did. Who knows? But yeah, air power is important. Right, well, if you like my next video, subscribe and I'll see you next time.